Everyone, and welcome to our Ukrainian guests to our afternoon session on Ukraine with our presenter, Bob Wood. Thank you all for coming back. And actually, it looks like some of the people who perhaps were joining us remotely this morning are with us in person this afternoon, judging
Yay!
from the audience. So that's great. So I ask that you please silence your phones so we don't
There you
so
go,
we
guys.
don't interrupt. And again, please welcome Bob Wood.
Hello. That was a great morning. That really was cool. You guys asked really, really good questions. It was nice. I really enjoyed it. It felt like a conversation. It wasn't a lecture, it was a conversation. And we are so lucky, honored to have people join us, some really, really bright young people from Ukraine join us. And it's not 1 o'clock in the morning. It's actually nice out. Yeah, what we're going to do this afternoon is hopefully you read the bios and you got an idea on who the individuals are. We still have 3 people out. 2 are for sure coming late. And the other gal, I'm not quite sure where she is, but I expect that she'll pop up here sooner or later. And they are from different places around Ukraine. And they are here because they value a world relationship with people in Michigan and in the United States. And hopefully we're here because we value a relationship with them. I certainly do. I want to introduce them. First, I want to introduce you to Anna Kovalenko. Anna Kovalenko, when did you come to the country?
2013.
2013. Anna, this is Anna Kovalenko.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
And Anna Kovalenko is here because she has you. Some of you asked, what could you do in regards to Ukraine? And she'll tell you about it. But she has taken the Grand Rapids community and organized, and she has a Ukrainian organization that goes far beyond the war. It's not about the war. It's about empowerment in a family and community in Grand Rapids for Ukrainians and Americans who want to get to know Ukrainians. She has picnics all the time. And she has all sorts of events. She's a great friend of mine, and she's been here for 5 years. She came here today because Sophia, who is one of the gals that is still out, Sophia really wanted a translator. And so Anna is fluent, and she's an actress from Kyiv, and she's a pretty cool gal. So I'll let her introduce herself and what she's doing. And if you have any questions for her before we start, that would be grand.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Well, yes, you are my friend too, so thank you for that. And Mr. Wood said that it's my organization, but it's not true. It's our organization. We have a board of members, a board of directors, which has 5 people, and Mr. Wood is one of them. So thank you for your contribution to the organization and to what we're trying to achieve. This is a grassroots nonprofit organization that was just established a couple of months ago, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit called Ukrainian Society of Michigan. Our mission is to create a thriving, connected community while celebrating the resilient culture of Ukraine. And so far, we have gathered, at least we know of, at least 300 Ukrainians in West Michigan. And we are on the quest to find more because according to the census, there should be at least 5,000 Ukrainians in West Michigan. These include people who have identified themselves as Ukrainian, who maybe had Ukrainian heritage or came here as immigrants or just recently came as refugees. And we're building social educational programs. We are creating cultural events. And we started with Grand Rapids, but we serve Ukrainians not only in Grand Rapids, it's all of West Michigan, basically all of the counties surrounding Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo County as well. And in the future, we hope to extend our reach to all of the Michigan. And we are building the website right now. So I invite you at the end of August, it should be out there on the internet. It's uasmi.org. UA stands for Ukrainian, S for Society, MI for Michigan, uasmi.org, where you would be able to find more information about our organization. And thank you, Mr. Wood, for inviting me here. I'm honored to be here and honored to see all of the amazing students and creators from Ukraine to join us today. So thank you all too.
Yay. Thank you. Oh yeah, there is the Independence rally.
Yes, we are working on having a rally dedicated to the Independence Day of Ukraine, which is the official date for is August 24th. We will be celebrating on August 27th, which is Sunday, starting at 12 p.m. at Rosa Parks Circle in Grand Rapids, and followed by after that we will host a Ukrainian Independence picnic at Palmer Park, if I'm not mistaken. But the information about it should be will be online very soon. So you're all welcome to join us.
Can
Thank you.
Slovakians come?
Of course, anybody who supports Ukraine and Ukrainians can come. And I just want to say a big thank you for your interest in Ukraine, for your interest in having a conversation with these people, because it's very important for them to know that you care, and it's very important also for you to broaden your horizons, to broaden your knowledge about other countries and what's going on in our homeland right now. So thank you all.
Yay, way to go, Anna. Okay, it is my pleasure to introduce 5 young Ukrainians who are inspirational. And I will give you a little overview, just briefly on them. And then we'll open up and they can talk. I'll introduce Cassandra to begin with. And Cassandra, you can just introduce yourself. And and then we'll just talk for a bit. And we will also show films from The Street I Need. We have 2 of the filmmakers right here, Vitaly and Dan, and Polina is on the way. She is currently in Odessa. She's moving out of Odessa. It's gotten kind of dicey, and I'm not sure where she's going to, so she's going to come in a little late. And then we have another Urina coming in a little late. So we should be good in this is all about questions, listening and answers. So Cassandra, I had Cassandra in class. She said I had her in my class in the spring. She sat right there, front row, only person that came on time. I just said, just tell me something about yourself. And Cassandra said, I sing in the shower. And she was in sociology at UCU, and now she's at Lviv, some other college in Lviv, in journalism. And she loves movies. I know that. And she's seen Oppenheimer, and she's seen Barbie, and she went to the concert of that guy. And so, Cassandra, please say hello to everybody.
Yes, hi, that guy is Harry Styles, if you know him. Well, yeah, I'm Cassandra, I'm 20 years old. I'm from small town next to Poland, Volodymyr. It's historical town. And yeah, as Bob said, I like writing. I'm working on my manuscript and I'm almost finished it. Needs to be done till the end of months. And yeah, love football or soccer, as you call it. And yeah, just passionate about life and glad that I'm here.
Thank you. We have Irina. Irina, we have clubs. I think I told you, English clubs. And we do different kinds of English clubs at UCU. Urena came to the short film club. I think you're in political science. I think you're in political science, aren't you, Urena?
I'm sociologist.
Sociologist. Oh, okay. Okay. Don't talk to Cassandra then. In Urena loves her animals and she loves her hometown. And Urena has a good soft heart. Urena, can you say hello to everybody and tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here. And that's true. I love my animals very much. And I'm trying to call my dog to show you, but she really doesn't want. Talking about animals, I started working like volunteering to organize like some volunteering hubs in Lviv. So yeah, if you're interested, maybe once if it goes better, I'll talk with Bob and we'll show you what we did, what we have done, because it must be cool.
And I wanna volunteer this fall at your shelter.
Yeah, I remember you'll be the #1 volunteer at my
Thank you.
project.
Okay, thanks a lot. Olha, I've never had a student. I've taught for, I think now 107 years. And I've never had a student more prepared anywhere, not in high school, not in college, not in university. She just is a machine. She just reads and reads and reads and reads. And she is going to be a journalist. And in my class, in my course this spring, a lot of it was driven by her. Mr. Wood, this is what I would like to do next. Mr. Wood, this is what I would like to do next. And so we did. And I learned so much from her. I did. She will tell you all about Russians, as will Cassandra. And we'll learn about that. Olha.
Yeah, so first and foremost, Mr. Wood, thank you always for your kind and wholesome words. This always warms my heart. And yeah, so I don't know what to add about myself. Like right now, I'm about to be a 4th year psychology student at Ukrainian Catholic University. Then afterwards, I see myself in journalism. Like right now, I am like, I think that's my kind of occupation. So I like reading, exploring things, especially curious and interested in human rights. So that's where I see my path and my direction. That's my passion. So I would really appreciate the experience and the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Olha. If you turn this over to The Street I Need. The Street I Need is a series by Vidlik. And Vidlik is an NGO that sponsored 20 Ukrainians, teens, or young adults to create a movie about their home, about their street, about the war, a documentary, 3 to 6 minutes. And then they paired the filmmakers up with sound technicians to give the films good sound. These are good films. These are creative films. These are edgy films. These are, yeah, I love these things. And I have showed them to so many people. And these two guys, and we might have, if Sophia comes in, please let me know. And for sure, Polina will be in. What we want to do not at the beginning. At the beginning, we'll just open it up to talk with all of these young people. But I want to show you their short film. So each of them has a short film that will show, and then they can talk about it. Vitaly, I love Vitaly's film. It's just unique. It's not like any other film I've ever seen. And so I introduce you to Vitaly, and he's in right now. I think he's in Estonia, right? Tell us about yourself, Vitaly, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm 19 years old. I'm from Kharkiv region. Actually, it's near to Chuhuiv, city Chuhuiv. And I removed from Ukraine because of Russians. They were sending a lot of missiles, and so I was removing with my mother and grandmother to Estonia, to Tallinn. And actually, yeah, we was creating some video essays, documentary about our homes and how is important. It was important topic, and it is important, and it will be important topic. And I do love make art. Actually, it's giving feeling of life. It makes all of the garments in your body make shape of your soul, and it's just makes your legs moving and your body moving over and over again when you will burn out and when you will regenerate again. And yeah, and I just like to live like life. Yeah, that's what I can tell about myself.
Thank you. Thank you. Будь ласка.
Прошу.
Bohdan. Bohdan is a filmmaker. And Bohdan, I think, is making more films now, if I'm not wrong. I mean, I think this is the beginning of a lot of different films. And we will show you his film, and his film is inspirational as well. I think you're from Donetsk, aren't you? Bohdan? Around Donetsk, okay, okay.
Donetsk region, yeah.
Okay, okay. And would you rather us call you Dan or Bohdan?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Tell us
If
about
you wish.
yourself,
How you wish.
please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for visiting this event. Thanks for organization of the event. My name is Bogdan. I'm from Ukraine, from the east part of Ukraine. Kramatorsk is a city in Donetsk region where all of this war has started. Yeah, famous city, as you know. I'm a young director. I'm 21 years old, and I'm studying directing course now in Kyiv. But right now I'm in Carpathian Mountains, so it might be a bit sound background because local Hutsuls celebrating the blowing up of the bridge to Crimea Peninsula. So yeah, they bit celebrating that.
What happened today?
And it might be a lot of sound. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to go on making films, and 2 weeks ago I finished my first film that I really like. It's about refugees from Donetsk and Luhansk region, about their lives far from home. So yeah, but this work that you will see, it's like the first reflection to the period of full-scale invasion. Yeah, I think that is.
Thank you. Okay. What questions, let's start, do you have for our visitors? Don't be bashful.
This is to any or all of you. What was it like making the decision to move and leave behind, your home?
I can answer actually because I have experience. I went to the UK when the war started because I had no idea how it will be. Will be in the west part of Ukraine, so everyone was scared. It was so messy, and when when the war started, I was all alone in Lviv, and I'm not from Lviv myself. So it took me 7 days to get to my hometown, and my parents actually pressured me to leave because they were afraid that my future is going to end. And then the raping started in the center of Ukraine and east part of Ukraine, and my mom was like, "No, you're leaving," and it was hard because it felt like I was betraying my country. And yeah, when I came to London, like I was so happy because I had amazing host family, but still reading the news, it was really, really difficult. And I'm glad that like whole my family is safe, even my uncle who's fighting in the east part of Ukraine's Helsinki and all. But I spent 6 months in London, and I was happy and it was and devastated at the same time because of feeling guilty that I'm in a safe place and the rest of my family and friends are not. Yeah.
Either anybody else want to talk to that, Bogdan? I don't know where Vitaly went, but his situation is interesting because he is in Estonia. Okay.
I hadn't moved to another country, but I have moved to another region of Ukraine. And for me, it wasn't so hard. It was more hard to move my parents and to move my family from the Kramatorsk because it's like this one of the centers. One of the main goal was at the first period of full-scale invasion. Yeah, and it was really hard to try to tell them why they should go and why is it dangerous and so on. But hopefully they moved. But now during the 1.5 year, they try to come back even without peace at that area, and the closest city, Bakhmut, is only 40 kilometers from Kramatorsk, so it's a bit dangerous. But my mother wants to come back, and it's really interesting. And my previous and last work about refugees was also about why they want to come back. And to be honest, the answer is really simple because it's home, and home, it's like it's a state of inside in your soul. So yeah, I think it's hard, but maybe Vitaly can tell you more about moving abroad.
Thank you. Vitaly, can you talk to us about what has it been like to be to move to Estonia? To leave Ukraine and go to Estonia?
So basically, it's really hard process. I need to say, especially when it's like war everywhere on every territory, every centimeter of Ukraine. Actually, you just sit in 20 hours or 30 in a train, like with old men's, old women's, and children's, and after that you're going to the other bus and to the other cars, and it's like really a long snake of roads, and you just the way is really hard because it's you always on your legs. And in Estonia, actually, the situation is really confusing because they have like a lot of local Russians, and they have like really pro-Russians statements. And so in Estonia live 1 million people, but like half of it's like local Russians, Estonian Russians. And sometimes it's really hard because you like in I'm sorry, my phone is dying. I will.
Okay. That's not him. Oh, no, I thought for a minute it was him. Question.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Masuga Harrington, and I'm wondering, with the World Wide Web that's available to a lot of places, what is your chance to get into it, and do you get into anything that originates in America?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Maybe just me, but
I'm wondering if through the World Wide Web, you're able to get into anything that might originate in the United States or the Western countries.
He's talking about what access you may have to the internet.
oh, we have access to everything, like everything, and we had access to everything. Like we're a progressive country, and nothing was banned because of war. If you're talking about that part of media.
And actually, I can probably like add something to your answer. So we actually have, so this exact amount of access that you have, because for instance, many of us use Twitter as a means to promote so much information to the foreign audiences, like in the US, in many European countries, like worldwide in general. So that we can resonate with others and other story, so that our story will like resonate with you. So yeah, so we have everything like under our belt to get the right access. If you're talking about that.
Was that? Yeah. And I would just add to that, like in regards to news. To have access, so much access. In fact, I know that the gals in my class, Cassandra and Ola, that they would access the Atlantic, the New Yorker, the Washington Post, all sorts of US journalism, but also UK journalism, journalism from all over the world. These are they have, and that's a big difference between Ukraine and Russia, I would say, that Ukrainians seek out sources all over the world. I don't know if Russians do. What's that? They can. They can. Yeah, they can. You guys can talk about Russia. No. What is the access, do you think, for Russian citizens your age, young people, in regards to news from around the world?
Well, I can start again. Sorry if I'm being too talkative, but yeah, I think Russians last year when war started, full invasion started, they were banned from Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, but they use VPN. So technically they do have chance to like read the news for out of Russia.
Yeah, yeah. You got to flick the mic on.
Sorry, can I also add a point here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually Russians are really active in like many like social media that you can easily find, like Twitter, Instagram. So they always resort to, for instance, commenting like under Vladimir Zelensky publications and writing something like that. You all should die, you should rot, you should burn in hell because you're disgusting, you're the enemy, and you're like under the rule of the West. So you're just like being manipulated and things like that. And we can easily translate that as Ukrainians because, for instance, we have this influence of Russification, and that's why we all can understand like Russians writing their disgusting comments. And also, they also really like to use Twitter as a platform, but they don't like to use it as a platform to talk, like openly talk about like their war crimes, for instance, or as a space or platform to tell others in their country that they should be held like responsible, or they should confront the regime and something like that. Like instead, they try to wash their regime, wash their like their army, their soldiers and something, and try to say that no, we are not responsible here. The responsibility lies like confines only to our president Putin, and that's not our thing. So don't be mad at us and something like that. Yeah, so they use the platforms, but as you can understand and as you can deduce, they don't use it in order to promote information that can in some ways help Ukrainians to win this war, but instead they use it to justify their guilt and their role in Russia's war.
I was in the beginning of the war.
I think you got to flick that on. It is. Oh, okay.
In the beginning of the war, and the Ukrainians would be talking to family members in Russia, and there were two different stories about the war. And I was wondering if the propaganda from the Russians continues, that families are being told in Russia something different versus Ukrainians, and what are the Russians thinking about this now?
I can answer. I have family in Russia, Tambov. Actually, I had family because we're not talking anymore. And I think we stopped talking even before a full-scale invasion because the war started in 2014. And they were brainwashed like way before the war started in 2014. So my uncle, who used to live in Tambov because he passed away but a few years ago, but he grew up in west part of Ukraine, and he visited us with his family, but he always he started in 2012 or something like that, saying about Banderivci. I'm not sure if you heard about them, but it's like a like they started talking about us being enemies, and then we need to start talking Russian because we're like one country, USSR and stuff. And it was messed up back then. And after the war started, it was worse and worse. And eventually we just stopped talking. So yeah, we're not holding that like connection anymore. Not sadly.
Yeah, I have a question on religious tolerance. What's the state of religious tolerance in Ukraine? And is there any fractures in the unified position of the Ukrainians based on religion?
Sorry, would you be able to repeat your question?
Religious tolerance.
Time?
I'm asking whether all religions are tolerated in Ukraine, and whether religion causes any fractures in society, or is Ukrainians totally unified, and again, whether all religions are respected and tolerated.
Можете
Yeah, of
перекласти
course.
трошечки?
Yeah, all except of Moscow. I don't know how to say it in English. Can you help me? Moscowski Patriarchat,
Patriarchy, I guess.
probably.
No, not like that.
So like we have Muslims because of Crimean Tatars, and most of the population in Crimea are Muslims, and we tolerate every religion. And yeah, I never heard anything like those are bad or those are good. Never.
We have also a huge Jewish community in Ukraine. We also have like really religious city Uman, where Jewish people came to every year. So, and our president also a Jewish one. So I think it's not a question for Ukraine religion tolerance. Also, but we also have like Moscow church, and it's really popular, was really popular all over Ukraine. And now during the process of like розслідування, як це?
Investigation.
Yeah, process of investigation, their part in that propaganda, because I also made a work, a film about Moscow pro-Russian church man. Okay, Свят, цей, ваш батюшка. I forgot this.
Pope? Like Pope?
Pope, yeah. And I made a film about him, and it was like really close to the border, not the border, but front line during 2021. Yeah, and then I really understood that, yeah, that these people really brainwash our citizens in Donetsk region also, because it's really popular in Donetsk, Luhansk, Odessa, and east part of Ukraine, central Ukraine, North Ukraine. And they really took part in that pro-Russian propaganda also. And it was a really big, it is a really big problem for Ukraine, because like it's a spice of Moscow also, and our okay, it's a bit hard for me to talk English right now to form my
Богдан, якщо ти хочеш, можеш говорити українською, я перекладу.
Да, якщо можна, я от швиденько скажу речення, що я хотів сказати, а то я так розмусолюю це все. Хотів сказати, що російська церква в Україні зараз, ну, на щастя, переслідується, проводиться багато розслідувань щодо її причетності у пропаганді, от, і знаходяться багато доказів її причетності, от, і тому наразі вона є, здається, навіть забороненою в Україні, в багатьох регіонах вже забороненою. От. І це єдина певна нетолерантність, так можна виявитися, але насправді це питання національної безпеки, питання нашої ідентичності і контрпропаганди. Дякую за переклад.
Due to the extensive investigations that are held around Russian church being involved in crimes of war, Russian church is somewhat being banned, and this is not due to the intolerance, but more due to the question of security and safety for the nation.
I have a follow-up question to that, which is the plight of gay people in Russia is particularly bad right now, and that's part of the influence of the Russian Orthodox Church. How does that relate to this issue in Eastern Ukraine and the general condition of gay people in Ukraine?
Можете перекласти знову теж, бо я почув Eastern Ukraine, and I think it's mine question to me, for me, but I'm bit, yeah.
Yes, can we please hear the question again so that we can translate?
Yes, the condition for gay people in Russia is particularly difficult right now due to the oppression of the government and the Russian Orthodox Church. What is the condition in Ukraine, and does the influence of Russia in Eastern Ukraine affect the conditions for gay people in Ukraine? And how and I guess a correlate to that is, how is their situation as people who need to leave the country affected by worldwide discrimination?
Питання про гей-ком'юніті. Відомо, що в Росії гей-ком'юніті дуже переслідуються і мають поганий вплив, мають поганий фідбек від церкви російської, від влади. Яка ситуація, якщо вам відомо, з гей-ком'юніті в Україні і не тільки в цілій Україні, але й в східній Україні? І чи вам відомо, наскільки їм важко жити в Україні, чи якось вони переслідуються, і наскільки важко їм покидати країну і жити в інших країнах?
So many questions in one question. Can I try to ask some of them? I'm from the east part of Ukraine. I'm also gay, but I'm not Orthodox one. Yeah, and I think that it's a bit difficult, really, not by the government, because government protect us a bit. Like, it's not discriminate LGBTQ plus community. We also have prides in different parts of Ukraine, eastern part in Kharkiv, Dnipro, also the same. Yeah, but we have to do more to protect the like human rights totally for LGBTQ plus community also. Yeah, but society is, we have like different societies, different point of view of our society, and I think that now it's more it's the process of liberation society, our conservative society from USSR period and previous periods, when we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about gays and so on. Now we talk about that. Media's journalists also talk about that. Government try to talk about that, but a bit like a bit easier, lighter. Yeah, but I think that we are going to that idea to have ability to marriage for LGBTQ plus society too. But personally, I think that it's a bit dangerous to go the street and take a hand of my love or kiss in a public place, because society is not still so liberal as I want to. But at the same time, a lot of people, young generation, it's more tolerant. And now here in Carpathian Mountains, I'm like team leader for children in the camp, and we try to express this idea that no matter your gender, is no matter your sex orientation does not matter. Yeah, so we're trying to solve this problem.
Irina?
Yeah, I want to add that for me, like I live in Western Ukraine, and here church has like real power, and we have talked a lot with people from, for example, same churches, but from Europe, and they have like a bit another side. And as I said, like to pay attention from the church side, they usually like not to forbid, but as Dan said, such marriages are not like we people in Ukraine cannot have marriage, for example, boys with boys or girls with girls, but it's about church. And as I know, because I'm from Ukrainian Catholic University, and we have talked about it a lot, and even our Christs have like different thoughts from European, and that's why we had some I have heard some maybe arguments about that. That's it.
Yeah, and I want to quickly add that we do have prides, and we used to have prides every single year before the full invasion started. And more people are supporting that. Unfortunately, I think one of the things that is not working, transgender people can't leave Ukraine because, for example, transgender women can't leave Ukraine because they have in their ID that they are male. So I think that's one thing. But yeah, otherwise, I think we're working on that a lot, especially younger generation. And because of Soviet Union, it's really, really hard to change minds so quick, like switch minds quickly. But yeah, we're becoming more and more liberated. And of course, there are people who can't tolerate everyone, but I think it's the way it works, unfortunately, in every single country.
Sorry, I would also like to quickly add some points to the conversation, because the first thing is that so many people who identify themselves as like part of LGBT community, they also make up like the part of Ukraine's armed forces, and I think that that's important here, because they are perceived as like equals. They also defend our countries. They also take part in liberating our territories and defending our like values that we are fighting for each day. Also, we are working on the legislation of same-sex marriages, which are not legalized yet for the time being, but still statistically, a lot of people, statistically, not only young people in Ukraine, they back it, they support it, they stand for it. For instance, not only in Pride, but like informationally, they advocate for the people who might have been, for instance, persecuted for their identity, like sexual identity or something. But also I would like to add a point that we probably would like to compare like other countries' experience in relation to like LGBT like friendly attitude, like just in other countries. So what am I talking about is I've heard like multiple times other people say who identify themselves as like LGBT part of LGBT plus like communities, and they say that they feel way safer when they're in Ukraine compared to, for instance, Poland, compared to Hungary, which are countries that are members of European Union, for instance. In Ukraine, they feel safer because they know that that most of the people, they would tolerate them, they would accept them, they would embrace their identity because it simply doesn't matter. So yeah, just to summarize all of that.
Thank you very much.
Also, as an example, I told all my family about my orientation, and they just tell me, "Okay, nice." Yeah, but it's about my family. Yeah.
Good, good.
So I'm just wondering if Western Ukraine is taking in refugees from Eastern Ukraine. Is the western part of Ukraine taking in refugees from Eastern Ukraine?
Oh yeah, from the day one, and since war started in 2014, there are a lot of temporary, how to say, permission,
Temporary displaced.
Internally displaced.
IDP.
temporary displaced people, and yeah, in my group in at Ukrainian Catholic University, there were like 4 girls from Donetsk, and they moved there from 2014, and now in Lviv. Lots of people are from east part of Ukraine, and in my region, Volyn region, also we had a family from Kharkiv in our flat staying with us. So yeah, lots of people refugees are in west part of Ukraine.
Yeah, and I also would like to add that like on our sociology program, we had like practice, and we had to just stop people in the park and ask them it's like Telegram quotes, but we have Telegram polls, but we have to do it self by self with the person, and most of them were refugees. And I remember like to compare autumn and spring. In autumn, there were a lot of people who lived in like temporary houses that were built fast just to have some place for people to live. But in spring, most of them like already found own flats or own rooms for their families, or our government provided it. And the situation about refugees is much better now, because they like, for example, Lviv, Ternopil, Ivano-Frankivsk, it's the most western regions in Ukraine, had like more time to prepare a free place for living for refugees.
Yeah, I also want to add that people from the east part of Ukraine also moved to the east part of Ukraine. So they move all around Ukraine to the safe places. Even 10 kilometers from front line, it's for someone safer than staying like in 0 kilometer. So yeah, they move every region.
And I would say too, I was in Barokta in October, up in the Carpathians, and Barokta was packed. Barokta was like an IDP town. It had like almost doubled in size, people in people's homes. But then when I went back in April, a lot of people went home. A lot of people want to go home. Anna Kovalenko's mom came from Kyiv to the US, and then she went back
In 8 months, after 8 months.
after 8 months. So people want to go back to their homes. If their homes aren't safe, that makes it difficult, but they do want to go back.
Do you feel that the rest of the world is listening and responding to your voices when you speak out about your experiences?
Excellent question. Really good question.
It was like, as for me, it was much better. When everything just started, and it was like first 2 months around, and like you could I received a lot of messages, for example, in Instagram, because I have a Ukrainian flag in my bio, and people from different countries were texting, were asking, we could communicate with like all people who knew about the situation in Ukraine, and they would support, would ask if we need any help. A lot of my parents' friends were also calling us. Now, both Ukrainians and like even people abroad, it's more about people abroad, they are like not bored, but it's enough for them. They have heard a lot of news, and the reaction for bombed cities is less than it was before, and we can see that every day the attention to Ukraine is falling down, and we just trying harder to pay that attention and to tell people that the war like didn't stop, and we are still fighting, and we still need like help, and need people to talk about us.
Yeah, want to continue. My answer is not anymore. And I understand that everyone is tired because of war, and so are we, believe us, but it is important to talk about war in Ukraine because it's Europe, first of all. Second of all, when people saying, what about Palestine and what about Iran or Afghanistan? Yeah, that's the problem, because we stopped talking about it. So don't let us become next Palestine. That just simply like that, because it will stop, it will continue, and it will never stops. And yeah, and I don't feel that people abroad are doing enough, especially when situation like recently happened with our sportswoman. She refused to shake a hand after she won the game. She refused to shake a Russian's playing hand, and she was disqualified. Just like that. I don't feel that Western world support us as hard as they should. Even though I am so glad that you're helping. Yeah.
Ola, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I would not like to say that I don't feel like grateful for the amount of support that we're having each day, like perpetually. So, but I like to get to the point of when we were talking about authorities, government, and so this kind of power. And I would say that they probably, most of the time right now, they don't respond the way they should. And also it concerns Western media, perhaps, which constitute like major power and impact that they have on the citizens and many people. So I would probably confine myself to 2 points. So first, you remember the case when we experienced the explosion on Nova Kakhovka Dam. So this was on, if I'm not mistaken, like 6th of June. So it was the beginning of the summer. And when like everything so pointed to the Russia's guilt here, so everyone was reluctant to admit it. And instead, what Western media did was that they like compare the experiences of Russia and Ukraine, not the way they should, because Russia is the aggressor state, Ukraine is the victim here. And this is like simply, you cannot compare the country that commits genocide perpetually against another sovereign nation and like the words of this nation that suffers from the actions of another country. So what they did was that they cited Russia's authorities, and not even authorities, they also cited their like some unofficial Telegram marginal like pages, which said something like this is all like the guilt of Ukraine and something like that. So they made like Ukraine's point and Russia's point like they treated them as equals, which is not the case here. So this was absolutely terrific because many people like consumed this misconception and they treated us as people who can literally commit this huge crime against like themselves. This was a deployment of the weapon of mass destruction, because when you destruct this huge kind of infrastructure, this equals to deploying like the weapon of mass destruction. The second case was when we all were discussing the thing about like cluster munitions. And here is like the second misconception that many people were prone to believe in, that we can all still negotiate. But the question is, how can you negotiate with the country that simply does not adhere to any kind of negotiations like these almost past 2 years of their full-scale invasion? You cannot do it. You cannot negotiate with people who rape you, who terrorize you every day at night when you sleep peacefully at your home. You cannot do it. As Ukrainians, we know it, but many people in the world community still doesn't get it, probably. And that's why many people said that, no, you shouldn't use cluster munitions because this is like dangerous, this is overrated, and this is not like legally justified. But no, in our country, this is justified. In our case, it's justified. And like Russia has already murdered so many people in Ukraine precisely due to their usage of cluster munitions in civilian districts. And Ukraine wants to use it precisely against Russian occupiers and the areas which are the areas where Russian troops are deployed in something. So that is the huge difference. And the fact that many people were reluctant to support the decision, to back the decision to deliver and postpone the delivery of the cluster munitions is just harmful. And yes, so there are multiple cases of that, but these are just 2 cases that I wanted to illustrate so that you can see it perhaps from our perspective.
And I also want to add that as for me, I'm really grateful all of you that you're here and all of your citizens in USA and in other democratic states that you helps, because I think that the help is really huge from you, but it's still not enough, sadly, because our enemy, our common enemy, is much more powerful as we think, and they have really huge territory and a lot of resources that they can sell to another authoritarian regime as China. And also I see that Ukraine and we as Ukrainians do not enough to talk with countries, the greatest country, or India. It's a huge countries with a lot of citizens, like Indonesia, and sadly we don't have powerful diplomatic centers there to talk with them, sadly. And I think that it's also a problem because Ukraine united West world, as I can talk like call that like West world, democratic liberal world, but also we don't connect all the world. And I, as Ukrainian, I can say that we don't trust United Nations because they do nothing. They almost not react to the war. At the day of explosion in Kakhovska dam, they just published, oh, happy Russians Day, happy Russian language day. It's the day when the huge disaster came to south part of Ukraine, and Ukrainians really don't trust many of like world organizations, and we want to reform that because it's how Russian could be in the Council of Security when it's attack another country that signed that. Краще, якщо українською, то що ми навіть підписали з ними договір про роззброєння, безпеку, що вони гарантують нам безпеку, от, і вони нападають. Як після того вони можуть бути в Раді безпеки ООН, залишатися там, і як українці можуть довіряти таким інституціям і довіряти ООН, які просто голосують і нічого не роблять, а виражають свої співчуття. Ми дуже вдячні конкретним країнам, які допомагають, а таким інституціям світовим, на жаль, довіра до них мінімальна, і ми відчуваємо потребу їх реформ. Якщо ви зможете перевести, це буде дуже вдячно.
Even when we signed an agreement about the security, even then they still invade us, they still kill us. So how can we trust the world organizations such as UN and their Security Council if they do these things, if they promote Russia? We do trust individual countries that help us, but we do not trust anymore the big organizations.
Wasn't that, I mean, do one of you guys want to talk to that? Was it the Budapest Accords? Was that it? Ola or Cassandra, somebody, tell us what the Budapest Accords were.
We signed the agreement in 90s when Ukraine became independent, that we will give our how to say
nuclear arsenal of power, nuclear just weaponry.
Yeah, they will give it to Russia, and we signed the agreement with lots of other countries. And yeah, they just like we signed the agreement that they will defend us like a country, sovereign country, and then they attacked us. So they broke the agreement, and every single country who signed with us Budapest Memorandum stayed silent for almost 10 years now.
I think for sure UK, US, and Russia and Ukraine all signed it. I don't know if there were other countries that signed it, but that's a problem when that was signed back in the 90s. And here we are today, and the countries that were involved in it didn't stand up to their responsibilities in that memorandum. Yeah, that was problematic. Let's watch a couple of the movies. Don't go away. Don't anybody go away. And we'll show 3 of the movies. Hopefully, Paulina will come. I love her movie, and she has been so, I've talked to her a number of times. Let's go first with Sonia's. Sonia's not here, but this is a great opening. This will be a good one to start with, and then we'll go on to Bodan's. Okay, they all start like this. And those are the oblasts of Ukraine, like the states of Ukraine. This one.
I'm 17. I live in Kakhovka. My house is located on Mikhail Zhuka Street. It's strange that I rarely walk this street, but I watch it almost every day. I especially like to do this at night. Last time was before the invasion. The city was covered with fog. I went to the balcony to take pictures. Early morning, February 24, I woke up due to very loud explosions. Opened the weather hoping that it was a storm, but what? A storm in winter? And when the storm thundered the windows, it felt like everything except my room had turned into hell, and I could no longer escape because there was lava everywhere. Ukrainian territory and nation feels disgusting because of strangers and their heartlessness. We don't need to be liberated by Russian soldiers. Good always triumphs over evil. We don't need to be liberated by Russian soldiers. Good always triumphs over evil.
Sorry. That was Sonia. She was going to be with us and she doesn't speak a lot of English. That's why Anna came. And so maybe she'll show up. Let's listen or watch Bohdan's and then we'll talk to Bohdan about it.
Hi, my name is Bogdan. I'm 20 years old and I'm studying in Kiev's Art University. For the past few years I have been trying to build my life in the capital, but my personal story is still there, 800 kilometers from Kiev. Kramatorsk, among the steppes, industrial zones and small towns of Donbass, scattered here and there, grows the giant, cultural, industrial and so beloved. 500 years ago there was a fortress called Sov, which protected Rus from the invaders. Now Kramatorsk is also a fortress. It protects us from the Russian world. The city is 150 years old, still young, but my opinion is that it has experienced real growth during the last 8 years, just after the cold, bloody shower of 2014. This is a tiny story from my childhood. Summer, 2007. I'm 6 years old. Somewhere on Dvertseva Street. Walking. I went alone with my friend Shurik, while Mom and her friend walked behind. Shurik and I were running here and there, playing a game. You couldn't step on asphalt tracks. This way we reached the center of the city, the Palace of Culture. The large wild building similar to the palace of the classical era. A bunch of children, including my sister, were taught different culture spheres in a very old-fashioned way. It was getting dark, so we entered the food store together and I persuaded my mom to buy me a Kinder. What's there inside? In a moment my father will take us home. This native street is about feeling of home. This street is about childhood memories, personal changes and growth of my family and whole the city. As a child, this street took me to the Palace of Culture, and now I'm still following it. Bam, bam, bam. And there is no palace, no street, no house. Bam, bam, bam. And for 2 weeks I haven't been on cultural tracks. but rather trying to do at least something to be useful during the war. Boom. And there is no Kramatorsk anymore. Just like Volnovakha that was destroyed. Just like Mariupol and Izum that is destroyed by bombs now. Are you scared? It's terrible to lose everything you love so much. Everything that connects you to the past. My dear Street, yet I believe that the flag of Russia or DNR will never have on you. I know that this fortress will stand ground and save Kiev and Rus from the orcs again, as it did 500 years ago.
This is Vitaly, who was up there, and then Polina is on as well. So we will watch Polina's too.
My name is Vitaly Antologov. I make an art and try to get any feelings from life. I am Dokuch borrowed. This is what the student calls the inhabitants of the village of Dokuchaevsky. Why is Dokuchaevsky? This is a place where the Dokuchaev University is located. Everything is simple, no water, just a university. My whole life is connected with this place. Here I walked a little outdoors. Here I broke my knee on the asphalt. I remember the boys and I hanging out on apricots all the time. Here I found real friends. Our relationships went through fire and frost. He was the first confession of love. Under the house of cats, I said how much I liked this girl. First time I was drunk in Dokuch, when we bought beer at the store twice as expensive as usual. All my school years were spent here. Philosophical meetings were held in slabs, where they usually too drunk, but we talk under the stars about the meaning of life with a glass of port and a cigarette in right hand. I took and gave all my emotions to this place, to these windows that glow at night, to these people who are the greatest and calmest at the same time. Now I feel happy, but at the same time extremely devastated and angry, and I am Estonia. Darling. I met Poles and Lithuanians who helped us incredibly. When I think of them, I feel warm in my soul, and I begin to think that the palm of goodness exists, and it really touches people's souls. I want to tell everyone who helped us that I want to love and hug you. I want to bring you as much happiness as you brought me, only twice as much. I want to thank you. My hometown was destroyed. The feelings that were embedded in those buildings, they were ruthlessly destroyed by cruel missiles. Now there are only shattered buildings and dreams. My father is there now. He is wearing a yellow bandage on his arm and I'm proud of that. But recently cut off the light and we can call him. I hope he is fine. I hope everything will end in victory and I will go back there and look at the big hole in the house with the thought that everything will only get better. The burning brick will go away. The new one will be late. And Dokuch will remain Dokuch. Because my memory grows like a bush from this land.
And Polina. Polina's here and Yorina's.
Hi, I'm Polina. I'm 31. I grew up in the city of Sumy on Metallurgiv Street. My mother, Lida, still lives there. My family used to have an estate here with yard and garden. It was demolished in 1969 to build a street. My family was obligated to move into an apartment. Their whole old street and the neighbors were crammed into one house. The family was big, the door was always open for guests. Now my mother is sleeping behind this door in the hallway because my city is being bombed by Russian aircrafts. My mom's childhood friend lives in the next house. At this time, she says there is no war because she listens to Russian propaganda, not the sounds outside her window. On the same street, people live in different worlds. There is the bench near my house. My grandfather made it. He's gone, but the bench still here. My grandfather celebrated the Victory Day on May 9th with neighbors singing and shouting that he was a tank commander. He's had an star-shaped tattoos on his nipples. I used to sing concerts for grandmothers here as a child. Now I sing in bomb shelters and in other people's houses. My father once beat 3 men here in the street. It was 19th. We were going to a restaurant with my parents. Mom was so beautiful and she had heels. In the yard, they saw 3 men killing 4th. I remember my dad rejecting them. Mom took off her heels and waved them in front of criminals. Finally, we didn't went to a restaurant. Then we sat on my grandfather's bench and ate some dried sausages. It was delicious. My last visit, we went for a walk with my mother and she saw a tree cut down in the street, an oak tree. She burst into tears. It's the last tree that remember me as a child, she said, and she went to say goodbye to him. It was the last tree from their garden and demolished house. And now the mother with her neighbor and her sick son are constantly hidden from the shelling and the bomb blasts. When the air alarm turned off, the neighbors gather under the porches and hug each other. My mom's 67th birthday fell in war days. I used to come for her birthday, and this year I can't get to my city. I am in another city and I live on Victory Street. Now I live in Victory Street. It's a symbol of Ukrainian victory, I hope. I wish to come home, sit on my grandfather's bench and take a picture with my family when we will win.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for making it in, Paulina. We're out of time, and you can leave as you want to, as you wish. I just wanna, I'd like to say goodbye. We ran a little bit over on the films because the questions were so good and the answers were so good that we didn't quite have enough time. But I just love those films. I do. The more I watch them, the more I love them, and they're all so different. You guys are really talented. I appreciate you coming from Ukraine today to share with us your honesty, your intelligence, your thoughtfulness, and for everybody here, that was wonderful. Really, the morning was fun. And I'm so impressed with these young people. And I'm so impressed with Michiganders who care about this. You have to funnel that into tomorrow and the next day and the next day, in whatever way you feel that you can. Number one, just to increase your awareness. Number two, to challenge false narratives. Number three, to call your congressman and tell them this is important for the sake of the people that we know. And then reach to me. If you want to do anything, I am going back to UCU, and I would be more than willing to continue open dialogue with people. If you have ideas on how you want to get these movies out, talk to me. You have my email address and phone number. We want to get these movies out. If you have ideas on talking to these young people, talk to me. Use me as a conduit to get to some extremely impressive, inspirational young Ukrainians. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Please give Bob Wood a round of applause. Oh, we. And thank you all for being here today.
I'm sorry we ran out of time. Paulina, I'm sorry, but thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. And I love that video. And I always think about your grandfather's bench. Always, whenever I watch that video.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you want to stay and slide over here and keep asking questions, absolutely. Yeah, is that okay? Sure, if anybody wants to ask, yeah, that's fine. So if anybody has questions to ask away.
I have a question. I'm wondering, I'm an older woman and I lose track of time, but I know that the Crimean Peninsula was taken over by Russia. I don't know how old you were when that happened, if you were, because I don't remember for sure when it was. I was wondering if you had any comments on that usurpation by the Russians.
Polina, why don't you, do you want to talk? You just got here. You were living in Odessa, which is near Crimea.
I'm so sorry. I have a bad connection, and really some words disappear, and I don't understand. I don't hear correctly.
I can translate.
What? I have bad connections. Sorry, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I tried to use 3G. What was the question?
So I can repeat in Ukrainian.
Ага.
Вона запитала, як чи пам'ятаємо ми, що сталося, ну, як ми почувалися, коли забрали Крим, і як це відбувалося тоді?
Okay. I can answer. I have friends in the Crimea, and as for me, it was uncomfortable. It was terrible, and my friends, some of my friends, go away from their home, from Crimea, and they have to live in other parts of Ukraine, and two of my friends, I don't remember correctly, but I know that they was, як це сказати, що їх переслідували. They made,
Persecuted.
They made, and I remember that they made political performances that support Ukraine, and because of these performances, they had to go away from their home, because how can I say, it's repressions, or how can I say,
followed by Russian government.
Yes, and some of my friends live in Crimea now, and I have connect with my girlfriend, and she have Ukrainian documents, and Russian documents, and Ukrainian documents, and she live there, and she don't agree with that government.
I don't have another experience with another people. I just came to talk about people I know. And this girl, Ira, we connect from time to time. I'm from Kiev, she's from Simferopol, and she can tell me about what happened now in the Crimea, and she still don't support that government, but she still live there. So I have only this experience, and this is the one thing that I can say about this question.
Yeah, and I'd like to continue. I'll be short because I know that we ran out of time. But I was 12 when Crimea was occupied in 2014, if you forgot. And I remember these like events all too well. And because I used to go to Crimea every single summer, sometimes even twice. And it was like my family's favorite place. And I know people from Crimea who moved to west part of Ukraine. And yeah, I remember that it was heartbreaking. And when the Maidan started, they did the referendum. They did referendum, and yeah, that was all. I remember that I was mad, and I am still mad, and I know that lots of people do support Ukrainian government and hope that we'll be united again.
Sorry, if it's okay, I can also continue the point if you still have time to listen to that. So actually, I would say that Crimea is one of the most like heartbreaking stories in like entire Ukrainian history, because this is the story of a group of minority actually. So we were talking about our indigenous people who are Crimean Tatars, because for them, Crimean Peninsula is a single land that they can reside in. So they only reside in Crimea. This is their single homeland, not like entire Ukraine, but just like Crimea. I mean, the home, like the place where they grew up, the place of their traditions, customs, and everything. And the tragic point in this entire story is that they were throughout the history, they were banned from living on their homeland. So Russians terrorized them, Russians depopulated Crimean Peninsula, and Russians made Crimeans basically go away from the peninsula, and they so they deported the majority of the people who lived there, and they couldn't even come back to their homeland. So they were impeded from living on their homeland. And in 2014, when Ukraine was experiencing the Revolution of Dignity, one of the most turning points in our history. So Russia just made use of the course of events, because we were fragile at the time, because we actually overthrew the dictator, so he fled, and we had another power, but still we were unstable and fragile at the time. So they made use of that situation, the current situation at the time, and they annexed the territory. Yeah, that's how it was. But the point is that there was a pseudo referendum. This is totally a pseudo referendum, because people were threatened with the guns near their heads, to vote for Russia and not for Ukraine, because otherwise they would be persecuted, otherwise they would be sentenced, otherwise they would they would be dead because they would not opt for Russian authorities. And that is the tragic story of the Crimea. And still, for the time being, Crimean Tatars are still being persecuted for their stance on the whole thing that is happening, because Russian authorities don't let them express their will to choose their own identity, their own right to live on their homeland. Instead, they Russify the whole peninsula. It's like depopulated as a consequence, and it's simply suffering so much throughout these 8 years. And the most cynical thing that that is probably linked to the whole Crimea story is that Russians, they still have the audacity to come to Crimea each year and have their rest here peacefully. So they come to the seashore and they say that the sea is perfect. This is our land, our so-called indigenous land, because we used to live here, but basically we occupied the land, and so we made it ours, but it's not theirs, and it never was. So yeah, that's the story, and that's the scale of their cynicism, and this simply makes us all outrageous about the whole thing.
Any other final questions? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Olha, yeah,
No,
sorry.
Into the mic.
Olha, you were talking about cluster bombs and the reticence or the hesitation of the West to send them. There's a lot of debate around that because of the dud rate. In other words, the number of bomblets that don't explode and they stay behind, and then people step on them. The Russians make a particularly ineffective one that has a dud rate of up to 50%. And it's even killed their own troops. But so the debate is, ours dud rate, they say is 2%, it's probably more like 10, but it's still leaving stuff behind that civilians can step on and have to be dealt with. So that was a debate, and finally somebody just stepped up and said, look, we're not being invaded, they are, give them to them. So that was the story on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
First, I want to thank you all for all that you've shared. I do have one question, but my question's really, I want you to choose what question you answer. What is one thing or two things you would like us to know that you haven't told us yet?
Perfect. That's a nice question to leave on.
Ola, go ahead. I know that you have something in your mind.
I can give you the first word, so I can go through you, perhaps, if you want to. Okay, so we might start the conversation about so-called not all Russians, which you may be tired with, but still, this is probably the most one of the most vital things for us, because understanding that the guilt, Russia's guilt in this war is the guilt of all Russians is quintessential in the whole thing. Because if we limit our perception to the fact that it is Putin's war, which is simply, once again, a misconception, this is wrong on many levels, because the mere simple fact, it's not Putin invading us, not Putin bombing us when we sleep peacefully, not Putin raping our women, kids, and older people, not Putin, but Russian troops, Russian soldiers, Russian people, which are part of Russian society, which grew up, which elected their president, which backed their president for entire 22 years, which didn't do enough, which didn't spare enough efforts to overthrow their dictator, to make any substantial change in their society. Instead, they all that they have done was that they appeased their dictator. They said that they can do nothing about the changes in their country. They can do nothing about their regime, nothing about dictatorship, so that they can basically just flee their country and tell everyone that they're suffering. But that's not the case. Also, we know that Russia has a history of oppression of other nations. So it's not only confined to Ukraine. It's also about Georgia. It's also about Syria. It's also about Moldova. It's also about Chechen Republic, which we know that many cities of the aforementioned countries have their cities leveled to the ground because of Russia's war of atrocity, Russia's war of genocidal nature. We know all of that. And I also want to have a point about Russia's opposition, which is most of the time perceived as like also good Russians, something like that. This was one of my previous points, because they're really active and like they're really active on Twitter, especially right now. And they advocate for the rights of Russian people who are somehow discriminated, or somehow not tolerated like in the world. But the question is how, like why? Probably there is a valid reason for that. There is a rationale, like why they're not tolerated the way perhaps they were treated before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So instead of once again advocating for the rights of Ukrainians, which are being terrorized by their society that they were forming all of this time, instead of doing that, they advocate for themselves. They want to evoke like the pity for them and compassion for them. But the suffering of Ukrainians and Russians, once again, is just can be comparable in any way, in any single way, just in no way. Yes, this is the part of their history. This is the part of their imperialistic mindset. This is the part of their like being brought up in Russia, in a country with like the cult of militarism. This is the part of just living in Russian society, which they all form and create. And that is why we all deem that, okay, most of Ukrainians, like I guess undoubtedly like 90% of Ukrainians will definitely deem that Russians are guilty. So Russian society is guilty, and Russian society is a core to Russia's war, because without the back of your society, you cannot lead a war in another nation, another country. That is how it is.
Yeah, I just want to add one simple thing that probably everybody understands, that our life will never be the same as it was before the invasion, because talking about Mariupol or Bucha or cities and villages that were destroyed by Russians, of course they were so beautiful, but we can rebuild it. But we can't bring back to life all those people who died there, all those soldiers, children, brothers, fathers, boyfriends, and the point is that we don't want that our people no more to die. We don't want Russians die because they are killing our people. We just want to stop it and have our territories back. And that's the point. And yes, we are afraid of something that is flying. Maybe it is okay for you to hear the plane in the air, but it is not okay for us. We are afraid of everything, but at the same time, we are afraid of nothing, because we got used to bombs, we get used to alerts and to all that, and we just want to stop it because people are still dying. And maybe we can, I don't know, we have told it a lot, but is that is the most important thing that I would like, and I think my colleagues too, repeat again and again, that we can rebuild Ukraine, we can raise money for shelters, for medicine, but we cannot bring back that people who passed away because of Russians.
Bob, unfortunately, we need to wrap it up now. Ian asked us to end it.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Дякуємо, слава Україні.
Героям слава. Thank you for
Героям
coming.
слава. Дякуємо дуже за запрошення. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This was great.
Good to see you. Good to see you all. Yeah, I hope so.
Thank you for